So, Ashura, my old cousin told me about this halfling that he met a while back and said that he would probably be a good fit for our interviews.
First, I'm curious as to how you're getting in touch with your cousin. Second, why does your cousin know a half? Are they a lot more extroverted than you are?
Yes, let's go with that.
All right, that's fair.
All right, I'll summon the halfling, and here we go. Hello.
Where am I?
Oh, you're in the realm of forgotten memories and dreams.
We are the Delegation of Dreamers.
Okay.
Don't be afraid. I know that Ashura looks like he could eat you in one bite, but he doesn't bite.
Depending on the place we're at.
Not too afraid of that. I've seen bigger. Much bigger.
Him.
Listen, when you're a halfling, everything's bigger. Mostly.
Just be careful. Ashura is a bit sensitive about his size.
Don't you start with me, boy.
Anyway, my name is Ephraim.
Hello. I'm Adrian. Still trying to figure out how I got here. Last I remember, I was at home in bed. Now I'm in full gear.
Oh yeah, this is all a dream. Woo! And we would just like to ask you a couple of questions if you have enough time until your next dream starts.
Sure, if some individuals don't try, poking me about going on adventures, sure, yeah, it should be fine.
All right.
We'll do our best to make sure you get back in time.
Wonderful. If it hasn't been noted, with being sarcastic, I would rather not go on adventure. I'm retired.
So, Adrian, how did you start adventuring?
God, it feels like ages ago, and I've lived a long time, and that still says something. It wasn't all that grand. I was kind of just wandering the lands looking for something to do. Not necessarily that I didn't have an objective in mind, but wandering the lands looking for magical artifacts or stuff looking into arcane research. Signed up for an expedition. Couldn't expect how that would go and how it started me on the whole path it took for the remainder of the next couple of years. But it was a magical research expedition to a recently excavated temple, pyramid, and I thought it was of interest. So I signed up with a few other individuals that I ran into at the time.
Okay. Would you say that you're trying to build a hoard of artifacts that you were gathering?
No, hoard, it was not in my intention. I did get a sizable amount of magical artifacts over my time, but hoard was definitely not the intention. I was looking for something to help deal with a condition I had with the time.
Oh, an itchy back.
No, not something as benign as that. I had an unwelcome passenger rattling around in my head.
Oh, like a nagging voice in the back of your head.
I think they make pills for that.
I don't believe they make pills to deal with archdemons.
They might. They make all these sort of new stuff these days.
Well, that'd been great at the time, but unfortunately, we didn't have access to anything like that.
Oh.
Especially given the world was cut off. But hey,
What was the demon doing inside your head?
How did it get inside your head?
don't know how. Do remember what they were doing inside my head. Possession, not a fun time. Don't really want to go over the details, but lost a lot because of that. Of my own time and people. People. Yeah, definitely people.
Did the demon murder some people, or what happened?
Some would be an understatement. Basically, my clan disappeared for a time. Thought I was the only survivor. Not a fun time thinking that.
I get that feeling, don't worry.
But you managed to get rid of the demon eventually.
Yeah, a long time later, but yeah, it happened. I'm grateful for it. It was very, very therapeutic, that come up. Long overdue.
Like an itch that finally went away.
Sure, we can relate it to that, if that's where you want to go.
I'm practicing my figures of speech.
About time.
You said that you met up with some adventurers. What were you doing with those?
Basically, we were all hired on to be like explorers and protectors of the research delegation in the temple. Basically, just working together at the time. We butted heads a lot, to be honest. So we weren't the greatest of friends. We became more like work associates later down the line. We got the job done. but definitely not kisses and hugs type group. Don't get me wrong, they were very good at their job. Like, it's not like they were bad folk. It was just like we didn't agree on how to operate, so we butted heads a lot.
I can't imagine that you're at a disadvantage if you're like so small, trying to butt heads with other people.
Figure of speech.
Hmm.
And I don't really have an issue with my size. So, I rather like being a halfling. It's quite useful. A lot of people underestimate the small folk.
Be careful not to butt ahead with the dragon.
I've done that. Not literally, but I have metaphorically done so. How many?
Mhm.
Most people, at least from my knowledge, don't run into mini dragons, and I've run into like 6, 7 of them. Maybe I'm miscounting. I ran into a lot of dragons, which is more than a lot of people should be able to say. And to come out alive, at least. That part's the important part, is surviving encounters with dragons.
Yeah, I mean, some people only run into one dragon and they don't even come out alive.
I mean, I can understand why I survived like 5 of them, because they were kids of an associate of mine, but the other ones were just happenstance.
How long did it take for your group to stop becoming friendly with each other and not constantly fight?
6 months, maybe more. I mean, the 2 of us still didn't get along after a time. We were definitely not the friendliest of folk. We would work with each other, but we didn't exactly like the association. I believe it was Alexia the Druid.
Ah,
She and I just didn't click. It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
when you butted heads against each other, you didn't click. It's more of a thump.
Yeah, most definitely.
We were so close. He was doing so well.
Yeah. We all had our own hangups, to be honest. We all had our quirks and whatnot. I guess they didn't like the severity of my action. It was more of a you get one shot and you're done kind of person. Still kind of am, but I've mellowed with time and, children.
So you give them 2 shots.
1.5.
So the other party members, you got along with them?
1, to be completely honest with you, and I pseudo-adopted that one. I thought the other one was an entitled brat. The noble Bella, I didn't get along. Silver spoon type. Nothing beyond that. It's just like when you've been given everything versus somebody who's had everything taken away, it doesn't rub well. Like oil and water.
Hey, that's a metaphor, I guess.
You do?
Yeah, because you rub oil into stuff and then they don't squeak as much.
He's trying, I swear.
I can tell. I can definitely tell.
Are you a lot older than your party members?
Actually, I was going to ask, can you tell us your party members' names?
Bella, the very noble artificer, is what their profession was. Alexia was a druid of wildfire, fire druid. I'm not very knowing on the druid ways. They use fire. That much I knew. And then Aeditha, our zealot barbarian. She was a front line.
And you're older than them?
Yes, all of them.
Ah.
I am not exactly sure how old I am. I'm gonna be real with you, but I got like a rough idea, somewhere over like a little bit over 3 centuries.
Oh, well, it's not that old, but I mean, I guess old for your species.
Yeah, we usually don't go beyond like 150, 200. I got a little bit extra.
How'd you manage that?
The unwelcome passenger kind of altered my being to like extend it. Ended up having different hair and eye colors because of that. Used to be, sandy brown, brown eyes. Now, black eyes and, pale white hair. I'm used to it by now. It doesn't bother me anymore, but,
Well, you got something in common with Ashura then. He lost track of his age a while back.
I'm as old as this realm.
that is another thing. This realm, I've never heard of it. I understand we've been cut off, but, I've never heard of a realm of dreams.
Yeah, you don't usually hear about this realm until you get here.
It's normally the realm where everything ends up that gets forgotten.
It's not a place you pass through, it's more of a destination.
Huh. I knew I forgot something. Sorry, I remembered that I forgot something. I couldn't ever remember what it was. There was this guy that used to work for Asmarus. Don't get me started on him. Name of Adam Ambers. Pain in my ass.
So not just an itch.
No, far from it. Pretty sure he stole from me, almost had me killed a couple times, tried to contract me to kill one of his kids. The list goes on.
But I take it you don't kill kids?
No, not something I would want to do, especially given, like, I have my own childhood cut short. I wouldn't want to do that to anyone else.
Good thing no one of us here has a moral compass.
I just have things I will and won't do. It depends on whom it's referring to.
Sure, even if we had a compass, it wouldn't work because we're at the center of the world. It would just keep spinning.
Somehow I knew you were going to say that.
Oh no, I'm getting predictable.
I mean, I can't predict you. And you two seem to have known each other for quite some time, so.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of him.
Are you stuck here?
I kind of am. I don't think he is. I think he just enjoys bothering me.
I enjoy the low tax rates.
That too.
Thankfully, no one has forgotten the tax collector yet.
Think it'd be kind of hard, given that he, takes a cut of everybody's stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of taxes, it kind of reminds me of work.
Mm-hmm. What do you do for a living, then?
The profession was adventurer, but I guess I said I've retired. I ended up being foreign minister of magic for a place called Daggerdown.
Foreign Minister of Magic?
Something to that. I don't remember the exact title. My duties involve investigating magical occurrences that don't fall within the city-state's purview. Like anything that might require investigation or research that isn't like immediately within the vicinity of their city-state. I'm to either send somebody to investigate myself, and deem whether or not it's safe or dangerous, and write a report, send it back.
Oh, okay.
Stuff like that. It kind of became easy when, you're always adventuring around, running to stuff like that. So it's just like, here's a position that won't impede you, but will tie you to us.
And does it pay well?
You know what? I think so. I've never really paid attention to pay. I have a mansion and a whole bunch of facilities in it, but I kind of paid for that myself. Honestly, I have not asked about pay. We're on a council of individuals who do like similar things related to the city-state, but I've never once thought about pay. They've been chipping me.
Yeah, that's something you have to remember when you get back.
But hopefully I don't forget it, because this is Forgotten Memories place, but okay.
Yeah.
So, how did I end up here, by the way? You said it's a dream, but normally my dreams are related to what happened in my world when I had the artifacts because of Zenith.
Ashura, do you want to explain this one?
I mean, you're the one that pulled him in, but I can if you'd like.
I mean, I don't quite get it because you're here in your dream, but it's our reality.
We pulled your mental conscience in through your dreamscape.
That is at least more understandable.
Simplest way I could put it.
Why is that, by the way?
Why is it the simplest way?
No, that's not what I'm asking. Why'd you pull me in?
That question would go to Aofrim as to why you're here.
Well, I would say that Ashura is just hoarding stories.
Your cousin said to interview him.
Yeah, because he has a good story.
I don't know about good. Interesting might be a word for it.
Okay, then go ahead. What makes it interesting?
Let's see. Ancient hero turns out to be ancient villain, hell-bent on destroying the world or reforming in his image, can't be exactly sure. He was like a destroyer type entity, ended up beating his creator / the thing he was copied from.
What did he do to become a hero?
The history said like he was a great protector of the realm, or he was a hero of a war between some of the ancient races and protected the newer ones. As I understand it, in our realm, any entity that isn't from the precursor race, like halflings, gnomes, dragonborn, anything and everything under the sun, was not necessarily an original inhabitant of the realm. It was like an ancient realm of like Fae and Fairy. Like Fae, Fairies, and Elves were like the original entities. They're still there, but like not the ones that were the precursors.
And this hero was worshipped for his deeds?
Yeah, he was. The history's painted him as like the great protector or the great hero.
And then suddenly he decided to become evil.
Oh, no, it wasn't a sudden evil thing. He was evil the whole time. It was just like the period of history he existed in, there's not a lot known from it. A lot of that history was either oral or wasn't written down. I guess being what he was, he probably edited it to make it seem like he was a good guy.
Kind of like Ashura does.
You're really trying my patience today, aren't you?
If you're the only one who keeps records in this realm, who's to say that you're doing a good thing? No one knows.
Should I stop telling him so much then?
Nah, it's fine.
You've looked at my lap. You've taken my laptop.
What's a laptop?
It's a
As far as he knows, it's a glowy box that you can put words on.
artifact that stage plays on a screen.
Ah,
Also, you can play games on it.
I'm not sure what that is, but okay. I'll leave it at that for now.
So, did you have a chance to meet this hero turned villain?
The name was Asmos. And yes, actually, I definitely met him, not in his original form, like the form people knew him by. He was masquerading as an old man running a magical research institute. I actually liked him when he was in that form. I trusted him quite deeply while he was like that. He was actually the funder and the guarantor of the expedition that I was signed up for originally. So that's how we gained a connection originally. I had signed up to help in his expedition. Things went south. The expedition had to be canceled, and everyone had to return to Cliffhaven, was the base operations for this institute, and ended up meeting him as a noteworthy and what at the time seemed to be trustworthy individual.
Yeah, the people you shouldn't trust are the ones that are the most trustworthy, because they have something to hide.
Yeah, funny how that is.
Anyway, please trust us and continue with your story.
Well, that doesn't sound suspicious.
Of course it isn't. We're trustworthy.
This makes me less inclined to continue, not more, right?
I won't blame you if you want to run.
I would, except I don't know how to get out of here.
Good point. Well, if you tell us the rest of your tale, we'll happily send you back.
Fine. Let's see. What happened on the expedition is we got there after recruiting a very interesting captain to take care, Captain Morvac, tiefling fellow. He was a marksman of some sort, a gunslinger it seemed like. Very open with his dalliance. Invited myself and the rest of the party to grace his quarters. But that's neither here nor there. He will become more important later, but for the time being, he was just our pilot. After we had landed in the desert where the temple/pyramid was, we got to introducing ourselves, meeting some of the expedition members, and then as we ventured into the pyramid, Manticores attacked.
Oh.
We dealt with one of them. The other expedition members dealt with a few more, a couple deaths along the way. The expedition had been going slow, and the Manticore attack did not help. Ended up slaying one damn near by myself. Was a great achievement. Even got a few items that I keep with me to this day. These bracelets of mine that I wear are actually from them.
Oh, okay.
Then we went about recuperating, resting, meeting some more of the researchers. So I ended up meeting the head researcher, Aveline, I believe her name was. Quite a bookish one, not so confident in herself, despite her not necessarily talent for the arcane. She wasn't much of a spellcaster, but her knowledge of the arcane was quite thorough.
Oh, okay. I guess you would be if you're researching heads.
Was that a pun, or do you?
You said that she was a head researcher.
It means she is the leader of the operation.
The research operation.
Yes, she led it.
Researching heads.
No, the research was on the temple/pyramid.
Then why do you send a head researcher to research the temple? I don't get it.
This is what I have to deal with on a normal basis.
I pity you.
Anyway.
Okay, yeah, head research. Yeah, she was researching heads in the temple. Let's go with that. Basically, we actually lost an individual later that night.
Oh.
I don't remember the name. They were a cleric of some smithing god or something. Not sure. Never really got to talk to them that much. For some reason, they snuck into the temple at night when nobody was watching. Never saw them again.
Did he get lost?
Maybe. I mean, the temple was never fully researched after that point, as far as my knowledge is concerned. But the next day, during some exploration, I found a crystalline gem of some kind. Could never figure out what it was made of. I took it and began messing with it, ended up attuning to the thing. It was a very powerful artifact. Boosted my spell casting, allowed me to do more, even told me secrets.
Oh,
It's a very interesting artifact.
that's pretty cool.
As I did some research with it, put a few dents in the vessel I was staying in, and also when I co-opted some of it out to the lead researcher, Aveline.
That researchers leads.
Yes, exactly. I don't know exactly how it did so, but it took off into the sky. I didn't know at the time, but it did hit something before it returned to me. But it did return, almost putting a hole in me. Then, soon after, a flood of some shadow goo ooze creatures came out of the temple and attacked the encampment. We fended them off with not a fair few of losses. So, given that and the unknown nature of it, the expedition was therefore canceled. We were returning to the Cliff Haven, and that's where I ended up meeting Asmus in his current form.
Okay.
From there was an interesting event in Cliff Haven. Don't know how, but some kind of werewolf shadow creature ended up within Cliff Haven, along with a few other of these shadow goo creatures, and we dealt with them. But we also found out something unfortunate at this time. The goo creatures were living beings. If they struck you, you would hear the cries of the person they were, and it would affect your mental acuity.
What if you get bitten by the werewolf goo creature? Do you turn into a werewolf as well?
No. Unfortunately, it wasn't just that simple. You could still get infected if they attacked you. In fact, we didn't learn this fact until much later. Because if they are able to infect you, they leave a piece of themselves inside you that can basically be formed into your worst enemy and or fear. But that's much later down the line. See, we ended up dispatching them, but we found out the important fact these were other beings that were still alive, that once were alive, not necessarily alive anymore, because at that point in time, all we saw left were piles of bones.
Oh.
A bit concerning.
Yeah, definitely. But so far, at least at that point, it was just, piles of bones. People who've been long dead, apparently. Fortunately, everything didn't stop there. There was some people who died at the time. Asmus, playing his role as the head of his institute, revived a fair few individuals using some diamonds he had on hand. From there, we were co-opted by the city-state of Daggerdown to be adventurers for them, research, communication, whatever. We kind of did it all. And we did a lot, to be honest. So much I can't quite remember. There was a proving period. And then once we proved we were capable, we were sent out, most notably back to Cliffhaven, because sometime after we left, there was a quarantine for some reason. We found that the goo creatures had taken over the city.
Oh, that's not good.
No, wasn't that good at all. We were able to move rather unnoticed throughout the city. We did notice we were watched by something in the shadows, but couldn't do anything about it. The center of all this seemed to be the Research Institute, and it had much changed since we last saw it some months prior.
In what way?
The students were almost nowhere to be seen. There were group teachers patrolling the halls, some mages that seemed to be controlling or at least directing the creatures. When we did find what remaining of the students, they were hiding away behind a magical barrier so they didn't get turned into the crew creatures themselves or sacrificed to an object, another artifact within the Institute.
Oh, so they were trying to make another one of those artifacts that you had?
Yes, it looked like it, or it was another one.
Artificially?
The artifact itself was artificially created, to be honest. Later down the line, we ended up learning that each of them, there were 4 of them, they served a purpose to Asmurus's grander plan, was created to help them ascend. They were made from the essences of children, for children specifically, and they were, in a way, still alive. Their souls, their minds, whatnot, were still contained within these things.
Was it possible to release them?
Not to my knowledge, and we weren't able to collect all of them. I was able to collect 2-3 of them, and we tried to stop Asperus from getting them all, but somehow he infiltrated Dagger Down at a later point and got them.
So why was Asmerus looking for these artifacts or making them?
He made them and to basically enhance his own power to the point where he could not be challenged and consume or destroy the world, reform, and I'm not exactly sure on his motivations. It was a little unclear to me.
Oh, okay.
All I really knew is that he needed to be stopped, and I had a grudge against him for tricking me. And unfortunately, he's not easy to kill. We went in, rescued the few students and teachers that weren't like corrupted and left, got them away safely, and ended up being caught, unfortunately, and fighting Asperus after he revealed himself.
Did you win?
Well, yeah, I beheaded the fucker.
All right, job done.
You would think, right?
Yeah.
No, his body exploded, and then he began to reform out of that same ooze stuff, and I could feel that he was growing more powerful as he was doing this. So, me and the rest of the party at the time left, and we ran like hell.
He was a dark ooze all along.
I don't know if he was a dark ooze or the dark ooze was composed of his being or whatnot.
Oh, okay.
All I know is that he reformed himself using it, and in the process, I could feel him becoming stronger. So we got the hell out because couldn't effectively kill him at that time.
Okay.
From there, it was a very series of fortunate and unfortunate events. We got out, but his influence started spreading. His main base of operations did go beyond Cliffhaven, but he started doing things elsewhere with the help of his minions. That Anders and an individual named Gaston, another Leonin, Blackford, had connections across the rest of the land and started gathering artifacts, objects, and whatnot, and also destabilizing places to help with Asperus's plan.
Okay.
So we went about the effort of researching to find out more about Asperus and the history of the world, and, well, just gathering more of these artifacts since they seemed to be so integral to his plan. I recovered 2. He got to himself, and then we also ran into a few encounters with Ambers and Gaston. Gaston, more notably, we helped deal with as we found out he had a residence on a place called the Isle of Zenith. We went there to investigate something to do with artifacts that might be there or some great power. I can't remember at the time. It's all a little hazy. I remember something about a lich, but that can't be right. There was no lich.
Maybe a glitch in your memory.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, we went there. We found out that he had an estate on the Isle. Since he was working for Asperus, he might have more information there. And he was currently away, so we raided the estate. Found that he had enslaved a fair few people of the town, got them free, stole some stuff from his estate, and then burned it to the ground.
Mm-hmm. As one does.
Yeah. My party wasn't exactly happy with it, but I'm like, I don't know if there's anybody else in there other than his people, and if there are other people in town that we could potentially rescue, I am sorry, but like we don't have the numbers or the forces to do this. And you saw in the town that they had a fair bit of authority, not necessarily that they were good people, but most people didn't try to challenge them. So I burned it to the ground and found out more about Gaston's operations and ended up running into a couple individuals, an admiral of some great conglomerate of like powers that had an agreement about how the seas should be ran, co-opted her to give him a good hearing. The information we gathered from his estate named some of the individuals he's working with, their dealings, and so on and so forth. Very damning shit. So gave it to her, and they began hounding him in his operation. So worked out well.
And this led you to another artifact?
It led us to Gaston himself. He was still on the Isles, apparently. ended up fighting him. They almost gave him a very close cut in his nether regions because he had detailed some plans about doing some things with some individuals that I acquired quite a lot. The researcher I spoke about before, she was unfortunately in his employ.
The head researcher.
Yes. She didn't like it, but at the time she couldn't escape it.
You gotta pay the bill somehow.
Yeah. So after nearly defeating him and dealing with the operations, because they were doing some operations with an artifact that seemed to nullify magic. Now, along our journey to this place, we run into some old friends of Edith's. Old friends, I use the word sarcastically, I'm sorry. Basically, she had escaped from these individuals and they were trying to wrangle her back in their service. They weren't very good. Now, at the time, I snuck onto their vessel while they were attacking ours and blew up their ammo storage, like, where they keep all the gunpowder and stuff. Normally, you think that sink a vessel, have a massive hole blown into them.
Yeah.
No, somehow they survived that, and now they were harrying our escape vessel. So, an acquaintance of mine, the individual for which the Isles were named, Zenith, I asked them for some help, and help I did receive. Wait, one of you said you had a cousin, right?
Yeah. My cousin told me about you.
Cousin Dragon?
Yeah.
That makes more sense. That makes a lot more sense.
I'd hope so. The grandparents had some explaining to do.
Listen, I don't know what beings get up to in their own private time. It's between them. But as I was saying, yes, he sent some help in the form of his children, which are dragons.
Oh, okay. And they helped you out?
Yeah, one was a white dragon. They ended up destroying the encampment of the folk on the island who were not our friends, the ones that were working for Gaston. And the other, red dragon, literally torched the ocean as he destroyed the ship that was harrying ours. Because it was the middle of the day, and then he released a roll of flame that was so bright and so hot it looked like a second sun had lit up the sky. Very interesting thing to watch.
From a distance.
Yes, of course. I mean, I did personally speak to the white dragon for a moment on the shores. He came by and landed, but beyond that, did not get near the red one.
Okay.
We left the Isles and we're fine. We captured a few individuals that survived the sinking of that ship somehow after the sun was dropped on them. Still don't understand how any of them survived that. Put them in the brig and left it at that for the time. From there, we returned back to the greater continent to a coastal town where suddenly there was some type of civil unrest that was sprung by agents of Gaston. Helped deal with that. Ended up capturing one of his agents for interrogation. Worked out well, but still, it was quite annoying. We were just one thing after another until we finally returned to Daggerdown. And then, after we thought we were safe there, more of the ooze creatures ended up in the town. Because Asmarus appeared on a floating fucking piece of land with the pyramid on it from the desert.
Oh.
How'd they manage that?
Don't know. Great magic is about as much as I figure out. So then we got assaulted in Daggerdown. We beat off the assault barely. A lot of people died. The king of Daggerdown at the time invoked a great ritual, which enabled him to bind with the powers of the Phoenix. And it ended up reviving a lot of people. And he became a pseudo-deity. Things got a lot more confusing when a whole bunch of more beings that came out of the woodwork, claiming themselves as deities, popped up. I don't know. Things got really, really crazy for a period of time.
And did you eventually stop Asmarus?
I mean, eventually, that was still some months down the line. We still had to recover, rebuild. We had new residents to worry about. Remember that precursor race I told you about? Like the elven folk?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they came back into existence.
Oh. Resurrected or as zombies?
Resurrected. Something like that. I'm not exactly sure of how they came back. That was beyond my ken. Still is, to be honest. The fact of the matter is they did. We had to make accommodations for them. And no one spoke their language because they spoke the original language of the land, which almost no one knew.
Well, that sounds frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I learned eventually. I had a teacher from one of their folk, one of their inventors, apparently, one of their head architects. I had to find out later. From there, I went to investigate a forest nearby with some kind of ooze creatures in it. Lo and behold, my clan still existed and they lived within this forest.
Oh, okay. I thought you killed most of them.
I thought I did. They survived.
Well, that's good. Were they angry at you?
No one recognized me.
Oh, okay.
At that point, anybody who would have lived at that time would have been dead. Not necessarily by my own hand, but any survivors, given that our normal lifespan is, 150, 200 years, and I was somewhere past 300 at this point. It had been their children or their grandchildren. But given we're reclusive folk, I had to do some things to ingratiate myself with them before I was able to investigate said ruins with goo creatures in them. It wasn't the ones we were used to. They were less advanced, maybe offshoot of them. Didn't seem like they were created to attack this place, more like they were just a byproduct of some kind of corruption that was here. From there, ended up running into a scion of the Raven Queen.
A sign of the Raven Queen?
Scion.
Scion, okay.
How did you know that they were part of the Raven Queen? Did they announce it?
Oh no, they definitely didn't announce it originally. No, it was from signs and what I knew of Raven Queen. Since my power source is akin to it, I could feel that they were related to Shadowfell, and it was more of like their dress, the manner in which they moved and acted. There were signs that I picked up on. Eventually they did, and they were there to cleanse the place because the creatures there were actually like other people who worship the Raven Queen and need to be put to their proper rest because they become these undead group. With their help, I was able to figure out about a great magical facility that had been hidden by the precursor race. And with the help of the precursor race, I was looking into where to find it. Never did get to that point, at least at the time of Asmrus being rolling around and doing shit, but did figure out more about it. A place called the Arcanum, at least. I never really got to find the place, but I had the keys to get in.
Okay.
Once we dealt with all that and made sure my clan was safe, though I didn't reveal I was of the clan to them, we went back and found out Asmrus was building power. By and by, there was individuals that worked for him that were created creatures, not like the goo creatures. They were mechanical and wooden in nature. I don't know what they were. They called themselves like Warforged or something. Something or someone, I'm not sure what, had found something on the outskirts of Daggerdown's territory close enough that it would be a threat, far enough away that an immediate response was not possible. It was an ancient seal left by the precursor race, apparently. It contained a corrupted dragon.
A corrupted dragon?
Yeah, that same goo stuff that's been like corrupting everything else and taking over other people. Yeah, they used that on a dragon and gave it like 5 heads.
Oh, no, that's crossing a line.
Yeah, I would say so too. It was also the child of an entity that I had run into before named Nick. I thought it was just some weird, capricious, like archfey, but apparently it was more like a fey dragon or something. At the time, they were acting like just this really weird, powerful cat. Because, as far as I understand it, that's kind of what fey are like. They just do whatever. So yeah, that dragon was their child, apparently, and we had to fight it. Because, corruption ain't good, and it was heading for Daggerdown. And then once it was done with Daggerdown, who knows where it was going to go next.
Yeah, and you managed to defeat it?
Well, yeah, I dominated its mind.
Excuse me.
Oh, how did you do that?
The spell of Dominate Monster. It was something I recently picked up. I mean, it was a really powerful dragon, and even though I had summoned Zenith's children, 5 other dragons to help, it was still being very hard to deal with.
Wait, you managed to dominate a dragon with a dominate monster spell?
Yes.
You're saying that we're monsters?
I'm not saying that at all. That's just the name of the spell. It seems to affect dragons, so that's all I really cared about at the time.
Don't worry, I have a discussion with the higher ups about the ambiguity of that.
I think the spell itself just designates creatures. I have to check, because dragon is a creature.
Well, yeah, I can agree with that.
I don't know why it's called Dominate Monster, to be honest. Maybe it should just be called Dominate Creature.
Yeah.
But I used the spell and was able to gain control of its mind. And with the help of Alexia, actually, she was able to cure it of its corruption. Then it became 5 baby Fey dragons, and at that point I just let them go back to their mother.
Well, that's kind of sweet.
Yeah. It was. The place that was sealed was an ancient city that it was attacking. One of those warforged individuals revealed to us that Asmus had to wait to a certain date, like stars aligning and stuff happening. He needed all this. He gathered everything he had needed to this point. This was kind of our last bet to stop him. So we gathered up a mighty coalition of people across the land from Dagger Down, other settlements, even some places from across the sea that I hadn't really learned about. And we planned a great assault on this place that apparently only appears during this event. It happened, the place appeared, the Great Tower was activated, and we went to assault it. Me, Editha, Alexia, and Bella were a strike force to try to get to Asmus and interrupt his ritual, his plan, before he could do all those things. The rest of the folk were focusing on dealing with his army. He had a few Warforged individuals leading and stuff. We found a way with Bella's expertise to disable them and give them like free choice because they were programmed to follow him.
Mm-hmm.
But for the time being, they were just knocked out of the fight. We infiltrated the tower, fought Asmus, and then another dragon appeared. Much larger, like as big as the tower, and the tower was massive. And I'm not talking massive relative to halfling, I mean massive relative to any race. So started tearing the tower to shreds. Asmus was getting destroyed by the coalition, but he wasn't quite dying. I wasn't powerful enough at the time to be able to use a spell wish on my own, so I had spent a great amount of money and resources on the attaining a ring of 3 wishes. Unfortunately, it had to be used or it would have been much more expensive. It had a 1 wish left. Given what I knew, and after speaking to that scion I had told you about, the one of the Raven Queen,
Mm-hmm.
I just wished him his timely death as he should have had millennia ago, and that he would be given his proper judgment by the Raven Queen, so he just faded to ash.
Oh.
It was kind of anticlimactic after everything, but at the same time, I don't think the Raven Queen got to let him get him off easy. From there, the dragon kind of tore out the last of the foundation, so we had to get out of that tower. For that, it was just kind of like, rest up, repair, the world's safe, yay. I mean, I was finally happy because I had achieved what I wanted with dealing with my demon, because along the way I did seal him, well, not seal him away, I actually consumed all of his power and his self. But I had beat my demon, saved the world, and once that was done, I just kind of retired. I don't adventure anymore. I just move between the 2 places, my clan's village in the forest and Dagger Down from time to time if they need me.
Okay. Are you still Minister of Foreign Magic?
Oh yeah, I didn't lose that position. I still have it. It is a responsibility I've taken upon myself.
I mean, you should really ask to get paid for that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely going to talk to some folk about that once I wake up.
I'm surprised being a minister you don't get paid, or at least you don't just pay yourself.
Listen, there was a lot going on. The appointment was kind of a thing because I was voted into the position. I was not even sure I was a candidate, and then I was voted into the position by the greater majority of the people that lived in Dagger Down for the variety of services I had done.
Some were born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them.
Yeah, definitely of the latter category.
I think I have all 3 of them because I once voted for myself to become a king of a valley. I had my destiny thrust upon me and I seized it. And what was the 3rd one?
The 3rd one was the thrust. Achieve greatness, born greatness, and thrust into it.
I mean, I think I check all these boxes. But you're on your way there. Good job.
Sure, yeah. Just, it feels kind of like a little demeaning.
Oh, no. I mean,
you gave yourself your title in your land. I earned mine, and I wasn't trying to, but I was given it at least for my efforts and deeds. I feel like you're diminishing me a bit, my friend. Come on now. I don't brag much, but I did help save your world.
Yeah.
That's a completely fair point.
I mean, sure, you saved the world, but how much gold did you earn? That's the important one.
I will whack you with a newspaper.
Listen, I have my own bevy of magical artifacts, and I have people who work underneath me who can also gather more, and so on and so forth. I think I'm fine. The money thing is more of the principle of the matter.
All right.
Can you tell us some of your favorite moments while adventuring?
Well, there was my giant owl, my partner, my child. Arya is her name. During my time on the Owls as Zenith, I was searching one of the islands and ran into a giant owl. Now, I don't know if you know this, but the Ghostwise clan of halflings, we are warriors by nature. Usually we tend to go towards the route of barbarian or druid, but barbarian is more normally what we do. But we fight with nature on our side. We patrol the lands, keep them safe. One of these ways, we do this with the aid of giant owls. It is a thing we call ourselves Night Riders. I, seeking something of my heritage, found a giant owl and sought to tame it.
I think I remember seeing a play on Ashura's magic box about some Knight Rider, and it had like a cool theme song. Like
Copyright.
Don't seem to know anything about that, but maybe it's something similar. Who knows? But I basically went through a very high climb, actually. Easier because magical prowess, I could teleport, and found her within a cave. She was very interesting, very large for a giant owl. She had like silver encrusted claws, which was also something I noted about her.
Good for killing werewolves.
Yeah, I mean, actually, we had ever run into any, but I didn't really bring her into combat all that often. I cared too deeply for her. She was too precious to me as a reminder of what I had lost and what I kind of regained with when I tamed her. We traveled a fair bit around the land, and honestly, giant owls are actually very quiet flyers. Like, you wouldn't ever hear one coming.
And how is she doing now?
Perfectly fine. I ride her as often as I can, especially within a village. She is a bit temperamental with other giant owls, particularly the males. They get a little too bold with her, and she puts them in their place. I find it actually quite amusing.
And have you had any sad or scary moments with your party?
You always get so shy and meekish when you ask those questions.
I have not heard of the word meekish before.
It's just a descriptor of me, but to answer your question, yes, I did. At one point in time, on these same isles, on a different island than where I found Arya, I ran into a coven of vampires. At the first encounter, we ran away because we had known and we kind of wandered into their territory. Second time we came around to get rid of them for good because we had figured this is where some, not all, of the villagers of the island had disappeared to. These vampires were feeding on them and capturing them, and there were some individuals among them that we wanted to save. We ran into what was a war between apparently werewolves that existed on the island and the vampires themselves, and used that distraction to slip in, not fully unnoticed, but enough that we could reach the inner chambers and fight the lord of the vampires. Unfortunately, it wasn't too easy being its lair, and I had gotten severely wounded. Not to the point where I was too critically endangered, but enough that it worried my party member Edith. At the time, I had known about her condition. When she rages, she kind of loses her sense of self, and she ended up fighting all of us once we had finished off the vampire lord himself.
Oh, how did that go?
We were able to stop her, but because she had taken so much damage before her rage ended, she passed.
Passed away?
Yes, she died. But I had grown to care for the child so much that I was willing to risk praying to a god. We had no diamonds or anything, and I prayed that what I offered would substitute. I had a bracer and a knife from the manticore that I had slain very early on in my journey. It was quite precious to me, especially since I was in a relationship with the maker of them, and I prayed and offered to the gods to take these instead, and I would pay any other price that they would wish, so long as they would bring her back. And then a great light enveloped her. I lost the knife. It's no great loss to me, to be honest, but she came back. She was brought back to life.
The gods can be generous at times.
I suppose they can be.
I'm glad you were able to revive your party.
So am I.
But speaking of your party, I think they're trying to wake you up for another adventure.
Oh, wonderful. Retirement is not being all it's cracked up to be.
Never is. Trust me, I know the feeling.
While it was interesting being here,
Yeah.
We enjoyed having you. Have a good awakening.